Back in Detroit, moving closer to kickoff between the Titans and the Lions. And today's game is being broadcast in Spanish, where available using the SAP button on your television.
CBS Sports welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
Mike Mularkey and the Tennessee Titans won the toss. They have elected to receive to start this Week 2 game against the Detroit Lions. And on the Lions sideline, Jim Caldwell, in his third year, made the playoffs in year 1, 7-9 last year. But this Detroit team has won 7 of its last 9 games. The punter, Sam Martin, is the kickoff man for Detroit, and Mark Mariani back deep for Tennessee. We're underway at Ford Field. Mariani out of his own end zone. And Mariani is spun down with a flag coming in from behind the play. Today's referee is Brad Allen.
During the return, holding number 28, receiving team. Half the distance to the goal. First down.
So that will back up Marcus Mariota and the Tennessee offense. Mariota threw 41 passes last week, the second most attempts of his career. And we mentioned it already in the open. 2 turnovers, both returned for touchdowns against the Vikings. On 1st and 10, a flag is down. DeMarco Murray takes the handoff across the 10 and up to the 12-yard line, but another penalty flag.
Yeah, the Lions look to be in the neutral zone just before the snap. And the fact that they let that play take place tells you that.
Defense number 92 moved into the neutral zone prior to the snap. 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
Let's take a look at the Tennessee starting offense. Jack Conklin, a homecoming, a native of Plainville, Michigan. Big Lions fan growing up. And Delanie Walker, we figured to see a lot of him today.
Yeah, Delanie Walker, 94 catches, had the breakout year last year, establishing himself as one of the very best in the league.
Rashard Matthews goes in motion on 1st and 5 to go back to Murray, and he is stuffed. Antoine Williams, the rookie out of Georgia Southern, coming up to make that tackle.
Yeah, he comes right off the edge. You'll see nobody there to grab him. The Titans once again just trying to run right up in between the guards. They did it on 1st down with the penalty, got 5 or 6 yards, not that time with Williamson.
But I'll tell you what, if Williams comes down the line like that on a regular basis, we're going to see Mariota on the bootleg quite a bit today.
Great start for Williams, who's getting the start in favor of the injured DeAndre Levy. 2nd down and 5. Murray again. And he picks up a couple. It'll be 3rd down as we take a look at the starting defense for Detroit. And Haloti Ngata played in his 150th NFL game last week. You saw Williams make the tackle. He only had 1 defensive snap last week. Gets the start for Levy. And in the secondary, Darius Slay.
Yeah, Darius Slay, one of the truly great corners. Last year, he had a career year, stepped to the forefront of this defense. And now, as you see on the field, Ziggy Ansah having to limp, be helped off the field. That is an enormous loss for the Lions. Ziggy Ansah, and we spoke with him on Friday. He's one of the most intelligent, instinctive guys. We said it in the open. Just such an intriguing guy. And you see there his own player on the whip around. Walker getting blocked or swung around right into his leg.
Lions fans holding their breath, hoping Ansah is okay. Meanwhile, it's 3rd down and 5. Tennessee 8 for 14 last week on 3rd downs. Quick pass to Murray out of the backfield, and Murray has a Titans 1st down. DeMarco Murray, 5 catches last week, and 2 of those went for touchdowns.
Nice job by Mariota here, not getting greedy, understanding, hey, get the ball to your running back, let him turn it up, lower those shoulders, get us a first down.
He's so much better when the ball comes out very quick. It seems he sees it very quickly. He has a great, accurate, quick delivery. This offense clicks when he's able to do that.
Back to Murray across the 20. And DeMarco Murray to the 22-yard line. And we met with Mike Mularkey last night, and it was clear. Not only did he want to do it in this game, but throughout the season, establish the run, and we're seeing that early.
No doubt about it. And Mularkey told us directly that he felt that was where the opportunity was against this Detroit Lions defense. They had to establish the run early. So far, Detroit has been up to the task, but that's going to be what determines the success or failure of this Tennessee offense.
It's Derrick Henry, the Heisman Trophy winner, and DeMarco Murray next to Mariota. And they give it to Henry. And Henry finds some room up to the 30-yard line, and he picks up a Tennessee first down. Derrick Henry had 5 carries for just 3 yards last week. He gets 9 right there.
During this week, rookie offensive tackle Jack Conklin, who was a draft pick this year, looked at Derrick Henry and said, it's like having a defensive lineman run the ball. The guy is big.
245 pounds, 6'3". How'd you like to break down and have that coming at you?
Well, you can't tackle him with one arm. I mean, you're going to have to get some help down inside, and it's really an asset for this Titans team with DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry. It's 2 big hammers they can hand the football to.
Mariota fires to a wide-open Delanie Walker, makes the catch at midfield, and Walker is spun down at the 36-yard line. A gain of 32 for the Titans tight end.
Well, this is a bust in coverage, the play action from Marcus Mariota. But right here, watch Delanie Walker on the line of scrimmage. He's going to just run across the field, completely uncovered on this play. The play action draws the linebackers up. You see Delanie Walker come across. That's about as easy as it gets in the NFL.
That's a total blown coverage by the linebackers.
We mentioned it in our open. The Lions defense has been struggling against tight ends going back to last year. They allowed 3 touchdowns last week against the Colts. 2 penalty flags are down. It was Henry on the carry, and A'Shawn Robinson brings him down as we await the call from Brad Allen.
Offside. Defense, number 99. Moved into the neutral zone prior to the snap. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Call on Kyrie Thornton. Meanwhile, on the Lions bench, they are working on Ziggy Ansah's left ankle. 4th-year man out of BYU.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on is Kyrie Thornton. Actually, not Kyrie Thornton, it's Wallace Gilberry, the defensive tackle, was mixing it up with Taylor Lewan, the left tackle. Those 2 are emotional players. That may boil over in a minute.
First down and 5. DeMarco Murray up the middle to the 30. Trying to fight for some extra yards, and Murray is stopped right there.
They're starting to push and shove after the play. Taylor Lewan is known for being a guy who loves to talk to other players. And you see there, that's...
I was going to say, if there's a scuffle, Lewan is probably somewhere around it when you talk about Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, he told us right when he came in the NFL 2 years ago, talking trash is good for the soul. I've never forgotten that. And he does it. It's part of his game. And some guys, when you play in defenses, some guys can't handle that. You can get them to play bad because they're angry.
Offensive coordinator Terry Robisky told us yesterday that the key a lot of times early in these games is to make sure he doesn't get too excited.
Tennessee calls timeout with 9:33 to go in the first quarter. This is the 8th play of the drive coming up. This is exactly what Mike Mularkey wants. Running the football, physical football, eating up some of the clock. Yeah, a good start on this drive.
Well, we talked to him. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, this Detroit line, you watched them play last week against the Indianapolis Colts. You've got to sit up and say, wow, because they've got all kinds of guys that catch the football, and those same guys that catch it can run after the catch. And Matt Stafford, and he's taken some criticism here in Detroit, unbelievably, because you talk to other people around the league or talk to people inside the building, he's elite.
And Ziggy Ansah is heading to the Detroit locker room. So not a good sign for the man who had 14.5 sacks last year, 3rd best in the NFL. following the Tennessee timeout. 2nd down and 3. DeMarco Murray runs right into a brick wall.
Yeah, that's going to be the big question right here. There's just a quick swim around, a fantastically athletic move by Thornton to run around the block and get up into the backfield. That's a big 300-pounder getting nimble inside.
Yeah, very, very quick.
Just the 8th NFL game for Kyrie Thornton. His tackle sets up 3rd down. Titans with 16 straight games without scoring a touchdown on their opening drive. Mariota steps up, jumps over a defender, and he's brought down. Kerry Hyder getting in the backfield to bring down Marcus Mariota.
Yeah, this Kerry Hyder kid, boy, look out for him. He's a kid that through the preseason really drew a lot of attention. Number 61, very athletic defensive end, great pass rusher, had 2 sacks last week. Taylor was also in on that tackle, Devin Taylor. But Kerry Hyder's a guy that always seems to have a great sense of getting to the quarterback.
So it sets up a 51-yard field goal attempt for Ryan Suckup. Last year, he only attempted 3 field goals from beyond 50 yards. And this one is no good. Saw a long drive by Mike Mularkey and the Titans, but they come up empty-handed. When we come back, Matthew Stafford and the Lions offense going to work at Ford Field. Back in Detroit, and after the missed field goal, good field position for the Lions, starting at their own 41-yard line. Matthew Stafford on 1st down, hands off to Amir Abdullah, and he gets a yard. As you take a look at Matthew Stafford, and last week, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions in the win over the Colts, a completion percentage of 79%, and they go no huddle. On 2nd down, Stafford over the middle, and the ball is dropped by Anquan Bolden.
And that does not happen very often. That one thing Anquan Bolden is known for, some of the best hands in the history of the NFL.
So quickly, it's 3rd down and 9. Last week, Detroit 5 for 9 on 3rd downs, including 4 of 4 on 3rd down of 8 yards or more. Stafford fires to Golden Tate, incomplete. Parrish Cox on the coverage, and a quick 3-and-out for Detroit.
Yeah, that's one of the things. If they're going to go no huddle, and we spoke to Jim Bob Cooter, the offensive coordinator, and Stafford, they both like the no huddle, but the problem is this: when you go pace, sometimes you put a lot of pressure on your defense to get right back out there. The key to it is to get a 1st down once, because once you do, the defense starts to lose their wind.
3 plays in just 29 seconds, and Sam Martin kicks it away to Mariani, and a penalty flag is down. Don Carey, who's a special teams ace, may have gotten there too early.
Well, it was a fair catch, and Carey's going to say he was blocked into Mariani. And we'll see with the official, but that's, you can't touch the guy with the ball, and you're responsible for your path.
It was a clear, fair catch. Carey, to me, it looked like Carey had to be pushed.
He's going to say he was pushed in.
Yeah.
We'll see what the officials, they're talking about it. He says, oh, he tripped and fell. I don't know. If he gets tripped, he knows. He's holding his hands up. He was trying to hold up. Well, it's a judgment call by the official. Was he blocked in?
He was being held and pushed from
Absolutely.
behind.
There was holding. Number 23 of the receiving team.
Okay, they got that.
That penalty will be administered half the distance to the goal. There is no foul for unnecessary roughness, as the hold was into the player.
There you go.
Timeout.
They got that right, in my opinion.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. Corona, who invites you to find your beach. And by Fiat.
Here is the injury update for Ziggy Ansah. It's an ankle injury. We saw them working on the left ankle, and his return today is questionable. Meanwhile, after the penalty, Tennessee will start at the 5-yard line for this drive. No score in the opening quarter, and Murray is brought down. A safety for the Lions defense.
You're going to watch rookie right tackle right here, Jack Conklin. He just gets beat right off the ball. You're coming out of your own end zone. You can't catch a defensive end in the NFL. You got to blow off the ball, get in his face. Otherwise, something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Tennessee right there.
Conklin thought he was going to be able to throw Taylor past the play, but he was in the way. Conklin was standing where Murray wanted to run. So when he threw Taylor past, he threw it right into the play, right into the end zone. That was just a badly executed block by the young right tackle.
That's the point of attack. You can't catch somebody at the point of attack. He's got to fire out and get in the face.
Some of the things about this Titan run game have bothered me. One of them is, right here's the ball. He's going to try and push this back here, but then Taylor's just going to go right. He pushed him right into the play.
But that's the wrong. This is
that's the wrong type of play. Yeah. You got to fire those offensive linemen
off. That's what I'm saying. It was the wrong technique by Conklin. That play, Malarkey, they're going to be in his face right now, telling him you got to fire off the ball.
Well, also, if you look inside, Chance Warmack, the right guard, was also backing off the ball as well. So I have a tendency to think, man, that's the wrong play call, or both the guard and the tackle are running the wrong play. You can't retreat when you're trying to run a hard-nosed running play out of your own end zone. And that's the result, and that's why you end up with a safety.
What a start for Devin Taylor. 4 tackles, 1 sack, and the safety. We were at Lions practice on Friday, and Taylor is a giant, 6'7", 275 pounds, and he's made a big impact in this first quarter.
Yeah, some of these guys, they look like power forwards. I mean, they're just so long, and so they have such length and leverage. You know, you really got to be a genetic anomaly to handle these guys, and you know, Jack Conklin found out.
Andre Roberts on the return after the safety, and he's brought down at the 31-yard line. There is a penalty down. That's the Lions' first safety since last year against the Oakland Raiders, a game that we did here in Ford Field.
During the return, holding number 51 of the return team. 10-yard penalty from the spot of the foul. First down. Timeout.
Penalty on Brandon Copeland. Lions lead 2-0. Thursday, your weekend starts here when the Houston Texans tango with the New England Patriots. Thursday Night Football on CBS and NFL Network. Patriots already out to a 14-0 lead on the Miami Dolphins today in the first quarter. Meanwhile, Lions with a penalty flag down. Is a free play. Stafford's going to take a shot on the free play, and it's picked off by Parrish Cox. But you would think that one is coming back because of offsides.
That's the only reason why Matthew Stafford threw that ball. He knew he had a free shot. Might as well see if you can get a big one or a PI.
Defense number 90 moved into the neutral zone prior to the snap. 5-yard penalty. Remains first down.
You could see the wheels turning in Matt Stafford's head when this ball, you see it right here.
Daquan
There's the penalty.
Jones.
And Stafford, all of a sudden, he rears back. He says, that's it, man. It's a free play. Let's see if we can get it done.
And you know, almost half the time probably nowadays, you're going to get a pass interference on a contested ball like that.
Titans with 3 penalties in the first quarter. They had 2 all of last week in the loss against the Vikings. Abdullah up the middle across the 30 and dragged down at the 31-yard line. Again, a little more pushing and shoving. And once again, the Lions going no huddle.
Yeah, and this no huddle now would be better because now they've got a first down and they got a chance to get a little rhythm.
Stafford to Marvin Jones, comes back and makes the catch. Coverage by Jason McCourty. It goes for a gain of 29.
Well, this is a back shoulder throw. I really think Matthew Stafford, when he looks at the film, is going to realize that Marvin Jones had McCourty beat over the top. But still, nonetheless, a nice throw and catch right there.
And again, no huddle. Lions pushing the tempo, 1st and 10. They swing it out to Anquan Boldin. Gets away from Damian Stafford and bulldozes his way for a Lions first down.
One of the things we talk about when you see Anquan Boldin, yeah, he's got phenomenally strong hands, and 50-50 balls are really 70-30 balls in his favor. The guy is phenomenally strong, and right here, you see how strong he is, just pushing Damian Stafford onto the ground.
On 1st and 10, the handoff to Abdullah. And across the 25, we go back to New York. An NFL Today update with JB and Coach Cowher.
Garoppolo and a start.
Yeah, how about that start? 9 of 10, 136 yards, 2 touchdowns. The second one being this one from 20 yards out to Martellus Bennett. New England leads 14-0.
Back to Andrew.
And JB, how about the leaping ability of Eric Ebron? Jumped over Jason McCourty.
What a great job. That's it. Purely instinctive when a guy with that athletic ability feels the defensive back coming in low to be able to get up that quickly over the top. Pretty impressive. Eric Ebron, one of the young, rising, emerging tight ends in this league.
Yeah, if you're interested, he's 6'4", 253 pounds jumping on the spur of the moment.
Stafford 3 for 3 for 48 yards on this drive. Abdullah to the 15. What a great balance on this drive by the Lions.
And it's about the pace as well. Jim Bob Cooter loves this pace, so does Matt Stafford. But as I said earlier, and as you see now, the Lions are doing a little bit better, and now they're resubstituting a personnel package. They're bringing in a tight end or a couple of wide receivers. Jim Bob Cooter said that's one of the problems we have. We forget to change personnel when we get in a pace with the no huddle, and now they bring in a new personnel package. The Titans are forced to match on the fly.
Abdullah running right, cuts it back at the 10. Still going into the end zone for a touchdown. There are 2 penalty flags down. And the Titans seem to be indicating this is against Detroit.
Holding. Offense, number 85. 10 yards from the spot of the foul. First down.
Now it was on Ebron on the run. It came out very early. Both flags are the same penalty. Right up here. So he tries to get the edge, and he won't. Yeah, he won't. He just wouldn't let the linebacker go.
That backs up Detroit to the 24-yard line. Last week against the Colts, the Lions were 4 for 4 scoring touchdowns in the red zone. And last year, they were the #1 team in the league scoring touchdowns in the red zone at a 69% clip.
Look at this defensive setup by Dick LeBeau and the Titans. Only 2 down linemen right here.
Pressure coming. Stafford fires over the middle. Incomplete. He was looking for Ebron. Good coverage on the play by Denoris Searcy.
Well, this is a great play, and one of the things that Dick LeBeau defense does, he's a coordinator for the Tennessee Titans. He changes looks up, and when he gets in a situation where he feels like he's got the edge in terms of run pass, he's going to make some kind of exotic look to make you give you a little. Here it is again. You see only 2 defensive linemen. A lot of people moving around, standing up, making it difficult for the offensive line to identify their assignments.
2nd down and 20. Stafford to the air. Rolling out to his left. Throws on the run in the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! Anquan Boldin. The 75th touchdown of Anquan Boldin's career.
Yeah, this is an elite throw. Watch, Stafford's going to roll. Only a 3-man rush. He knows he's got lots of time. He throws that. Anquan Boldin is completely covered up when Matt Stafford throws this ball. He's completely covered, and Bolden just fights through and gets the ball.
It shouldn't be thrown.
Yeah,
truly, that ball shouldn't be thrown. But like you said, Steve Tasker, you mentioned 50-50 balls.
They're 70-30.
Anquan Bolden is going to tip that scale in his favor. Matthew Stafford trusting him.
Matt Prater for the extra point, and it's good. In the last 9+ games, Matt Stafford has 23 touchdowns and 2 interceptions.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by The Home Depot. More saving, more doing. And by Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports.
Back in Detroit, an 8-play, 79-yard scoring drive for the Lions, capped off by the touchdown from Stafford to Bolden. That was after the safety, which, actually, we got to correct ourselves. The Lions had a safety last week on the last play of the game on that kickoff against the Colts. They threw it all around. So safeties in back-to-back weeks for the Lions. A touchback for Sam Martin as we go back to the touchdown.
Well, let's look at this. I want to show just what a great throw this is by Matt Stafford. Look at this area right here. There's really nowhere to throw the football for Matthew Stafford. Running to his left, there aren't many quarterbacks that will be able to throw the ball with that kind of velocity on the money, but it also illustrates his gunslinger mentality. He knew that he probably shouldn't throw that ball, but he said, guess what? I'm going to throw it anyway because I am going to give my guy a chance to make a play. And that's what the elite ones can do at the right time.
That's why Anquan Bolden has stayed in the league as long as he has. He makes those plays.
Derrick Henry is the running back for Tennessee. They've run it 7 times for just 8 yards. Play action on first down. Mariota on the run, and nothing doing there. Anthony Fasano dropped by Tahir Whitehead of the Lions. Get the CBS Sports app for inside access to your favorite team. From the front office to the front row, you'll get instant coverage of every moment from every angle. Download the CBS Sports app today.
Well, you got to give a lot of credit to this Detroit defense as well, with coordinator Terrell Austin, Mike Mularkey, Marcus Mariota. Everybody we talked to said this Detroit defense, they fly around to the football. They're playing at that level right now.
Delaney Walker goes in motion. 2nd down and 9. Play action again. They throw it back to Walker, trying to get him in some space across the 30. Walker slips a tackle and out of bounds close to the first down marker. Delaney Walker only had 3 catches last week, and 2 of the 3 came late in the 4th quarter. And Mike Mularkey said it's a priority this week to get the ball to Walker earlier, and that's already his 2nd catch.
Well, that's a good way to offset a high-energy defense as well. When you know they're flying and pursuing to the football the way this Detroit defense is, make the fake action one way and come back and throw a screen past the other. A good counterattack there.
3rd and 1. Henry has the first down. Last week on a 3rd and 1 play, the Titans threw it behind the line to Henry. Got stuff out of talk in Nashville about that play call. No messing around this time with Henry right up the middle.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's what your football team wants to do. That's what football players want to do. They want to snap the ball, let them fire off the ball on 3rd and short or 4th and short, hand it off, and let us just lean and push those guys over the line. That helps your offensive line's confidence.
No huddle for the Titans. Quick throw again to Walker. And he is tripped up. Great play by the safety, Tavon Wilson, in his first year with the Lions.
Yeah, Tavon Wilson, super job, open field tackle. This is not easy, folks. You get an elite athlete like Delaney Walker one-on-one in the open field. See the balance, the ability to keep his legs and feet underneath him without overcommitting. That's a really nice tackle in the open field.
Mariota, 5 for 5 for 47 yards here in the first quarter. Trying to get away, and he throws it away. And guess who again? Kerry Hyder. This guy barely made the team. He had 3 sacks in the preseason finale. There is a flag down.
No, there's no flag down, but they're talking about it because Mariota did not get that ball past the line of scrimmage.
Area, third down.
Yeah, they picked the flag up because they deemed that Andre Johnson was in the area of that throw. But that ball is, if it's Marcus Mariota just throwing it away, this is a penalty. But because Andre Johnson works his way back to him and gets somewhat in the vicinity, it's not a penalty.
Well, he's out of the tackle box as well, and I think the intent was definitely to get rid of the football, and it was going toward the line of scrimmage. So it's a judgment call. Tough one. Sometimes you're going to get it, sometimes you're not.
3rd and 11. Mariota steps up, has some room, and he's brought down from behind. And now there is a penalty flag down coming from the secondary. It's down at the Detroit 47-yard line, and it looks like a hold against the Lions.
Yeah, this came very late in the play.
Holding. Defense, number 23. 5-yard penalty. Automatic. First down.
That's on Darius Slay, the 4th-year corner.
Those are crusher penalties right at the bottom of your screen. Working there against Sharp. You can't, anytime you grab a handful of jersey and pull it away from the body, it's automatic.
8th penalty of the first quarter. Mariota back to the air, caught by Walker, and he's spun down at the 47-yard line. That's already the 4th catch for Delanie Walker, more than he had all of last week.
Tennessee trying to change the tempo here, going a little bit of no huddle themselves. I think that's a good call on their part.
30 seconds left in the first quarter. Lions lead 9-0. 5 on the play clock. Movement on the line. A flag is down. Henry is still dancing around, and he's taken down at the 44.
Yeah, it's all irrelevant because the Lions were offsides. That's 2 straight penalties on 2 straight plays that lead to first downs.
Offside. Defense number 98 moved into the neutral zone prior to the snap. 5-yard penalty results in a first down.
2 penalties on 3 plays.
Well, one of the things right there that was illustrated, listen to the communication here. Marcus Mariota trying to, well, you could see the miscommunication in the backfield. He changed the play 2 or 3 times. Young quarterback trying to get in the right look. Didn't communicate it properly, but fortunately, Detroit jumped off sides. They got a good positive result out of it.
And that's the end of the first quarter with Detroit leading Tennessee 9-0. We'll return to Ford Field after these messages. You are watching the NFL on CBS.
Watching the NFL on CBS.
Saturday, the SEC on CBS brings you the best game from the best conference. The Florida Gators go to Rocky Top with the Tennessee Volunteers. The hoopla begins with college football today. Another impressive first quarter for Jim Caldwell and the Lions. Going back to the start of last year, they have a plus 65 point differential in the first quarter, second best in the NFL. A 9-0 Lions lead.
The counter to that is that the other 3 quarters have been pretty negative over the last couple of years. But this team is on the rise, winning 7 of the last 9.
Started the second quarter with Henry on the ground across the 40 and up to the 38-yard line. Tennessee is just the 6th team to take Heisman Trophy winners in back-to-back drafts. They took Mariota last year and Henry this year. The last team to do that, the Detroit Lions, 89 and 90, Andre Ware and Barry Sanders.
That's one of the things that Mariota has to do better. I think a couple of times he has miscommunicated because of the crowd noise here in Detroit, and it's cost him.
It's all part of his evolution as a quarterback as well.
Mariota to Sharp, and he's got a Tennessee first down. Tajae Sharpe, the impressive 5th-round pick out of UMass, picks up 11.
Yeah, this is a kid that really, Mike Mularkey told us, the 5th-round draft choice, you never really know what to expect, but he said within a couple of days, we knew we had something special with this kid. 7 catches last week. He has morphed himself right into this starting lineup and really has established himself as a pro already.
Most catches of any rookie in week 1. Mariota looking for the tight end Fasano, and it's incomplete.
I put that on Fasano. He didn't look like he was expecting that ball. He didn't come out of his break looking like he was expecting that football.
He didn't break off that route. He just bent it, and when he got his head around, he wasn't able to get it around fast enough to adjust to that football. Mariota threw it out in front of him so he could adjust flat to the sidelines. He just wasn't ready to do it.
11th play of the drive. And it's loud here at Ford Field. 5 on the play clock. Mariota to Henry. Has some room at the 20. Henry so tough to bring down. A late flag comes in. Henry at 247 pounds. And this one is going against the Titans. There's an injured Lion down at the 22-yard line. And that is Antoine Williams, the rookie linebacker who's starting for the injured DeAndre Levy today.
And that's a tough blow right there if Antoine Williams has to come out of this game. The Lions only have 4 active linebackers today, which, as we know going into a game, that's a very, very dicey proposition anyway.
Foul. Illegal crackback ball at number 19, offense. That 15-yard penalty will be assessed. We also have a timeout.
That's a big penalty against Tajae Sharpe. There's a timeout on the field. Back in Detroit after the 15-yard penalty on Tajae Sharpe. It makes it 2nd and 22 for the Titans from the Detroit 39-yard line. Mariota is screened to DeMarco Murray, and Murray is brought down at the 36-yard line. Let's go back to that penalty against Tajae Sharpe.
Oh, this is Sharpe here, and this is Wilson coming in. I don't know what he's supposed to do. He had his elbow up, but he didn't go high to the head. It's a running play. He comes in to make a block. He does it above the waist. I don't know why that's an illegal block to me. And
Wilson was coming toward him.
Yeah.
He didn't explode through him. He hit him in the shoulder.
Yeah, we both agree that's a horrible call.
Meanwhile, Antoine Williams, the injured Lion, went to the locker room for Detroit. We'll get you an update as soon as we have it. 3rd and 19 for the Titans. Mariota flicks it to DeMarco Murray. Stiff arm at the 30, and Murray is down at the 28-yard line. So Tennessee once again will send out the field goal unit. Succop earlier missed from 51.
This, in my opinion, could have been almost a late hit on Detroit. DeMarco Murray obviously down out of bounds. The second guy coming in to finish him off. That was Rafael Bush.
Yeah, I thought it was close.
You got to be careful in that situation. You got him stopped. Last thing you need is give him a first down and an extra 15 yards.
46-yard attempt for Succop. He's made 18 in a row inside 50 yards. Make it 19 in a row. And Tennessee is on the board with 12:03 to go in the first half. A field goal for Ryan Succop, and the Titans now down by 6. On Tuesday, the Lions kicked off another season of Meet Up and Eat Up taking place at the Eastern Market. The program educates Detroit public school children and the community about healthy eating. Other activities included a Play 60 recess session as well. NFL Play 60, the NFL's movement for a more active generation. 14-play drive for the Titans, and it was capped off by a 46-yard field goal by Ryan Succop. And now Succop will kick it away. And Dwayne Washington, the rookie out of Washington, is back deep for Detroit. Washington is going to take this one out. Washington up across the 20-yard line.
I think it's always a mistake to bring those kicks out of the end zone, but teams continue to do it.
There's a penalty flag down.
Offside, kicking team number 31. That 5-yard penalty will be administered from the end of the run. First down.
It's on the rookie, Kevin Byard. NFL Play 60, the NFL's movement for a more active generation, encourages fans to get moving and play for 60 minutes every day. Run, jump, and race to Super Bowl 51 with the free NFL Play 60 app. Download it today or go to NFLRush.com to learn more. So Detroit with a 9-3 lead, 1st and 10 from the 22-yard line. Theo Riddick at running back. And Riddick spinning his way up to the 33-yard line. A gain of 7 for the 4th-year man out of Notre Dame.
You gotta love these two running backs. It's a fun combination to watch. Theo Riddick, Ameer Abdullah, both of them have that ability to look at the little spin move here, Barry Sanders-esque. Ameer Abdullah, same type of ability. They're both incredibly efficient out of the backfield as well. Both of them over 100 yards total offense last week. It's a handful for any defense to shut them down.
Play action, Stafford, quick pass to Jones, and he dropped it in his hands, and it goes to the ground.
You know, we were talking about Matt Stafford and how well he played last week. He targeted Jones 10 times. They only completed 4 of them.
But of those 6 incompletions, none were drops by Jones. This clearly a drop, and the 3rd of the day by the Lions offense.
And those were 6 of the 8 incompletions. The other 2 for Stafford. Kill the clock, spiking it, and throwing it out of bounds. He completed 27 passes to other players.
Following the drop, 3rd and 3. Stafford gets away from the rush. Buys some time. Flag is down. Completes it to Anquan Bolden, and a second flag has come in from the secondary.
Yeah, this might be on Bolden, or it could be a hold on the defense too. And yeah, the defenders can't believe it. You see Parrish Cox is beside himself. Bryce McCain back there. Both those guys thought this was going to be on Bolden for pushing off to get separation, and it turns out they were holding him.
Holding, defense number 23. That penalty is declined. The result of the play is a first down.
Second penalty on Bryce McCain.
Right here. Oh, he's holding Jones away from the play. And that's where the penalty was. It was away from the ball. The officials caught it.
11 minutes to go, first half. 1st and 10 from the 40-yard line. Riddick reverses direction. Theo Riddick with another flag coming in late, showing off his running ability.
This is turning into a preseason game.
Holding, offense number 64. 10-yard penalty. First down.
Yeah, it's raining yellow right now. That was on the center, Travis Swanson.
Last week, Swanson was graded as the top offensive player on Detroit by Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, they just saw the jersey. Officials are much more aware of that now. I mean, not an obvious hole, but when they see that jersey, they're going to throw the flag.
12 accepted penalties in the first half. 7 against the Lions. Stafford, deep shot incomplete.
That was a miscommunication. Trying to find Golden Tate. Tate ran the double move and couldn't get started running again before Stafford let it loose, and Tate didn't even chase it. That was overthrown. That was a total miscommunication between Tate and Stafford.
Injury update for Detroit, and an injury update for Tennessee as well, as Avery Williamson has gone to the Tennessee sideline in a bit of discomfort. We'll get an update on that. As Stafford sets up a screen to Riddick. Dangerous after the catch. And Theo Riddick gets up to the 42-yard line. Meanwhile, for the Lions, Antoine Williams has a thigh injury. His return is doubtful. As Steve Berline mentioned earlier, the Lions only have 4 active linebackers. And meanwhile, we still have not seen Ziggy Ansah, who went down early with an ankle injury. His return is listed as questionable.
Those are things that over the course of a game take a toll on a defense. If you've only got, you don't have any subs at linebacker now, you only got 3 active linebackers.
Well, and plus those linebackers are probably playing, the guys who are backing up are playing special teams, so they're going to get extra snaps. They didn't take any reps in practice. Yeah, it's hard to overcome that.
Stafford on 3rd down, penalty flag is down. Stafford knocking over defenders. He is short of a 1st down, but what a run by Matthew Stafford.
Boy, he got lit up at the end of it, too.
Yes, he did.
Jim Caldwell's probably...
No, he's got to be careful.
Yeah, that is not something Jim... Listen, you go down.
Yeah.
Matt Stafford is critical to the Lions' success for this year. You can't have him taking...
Illegal use of the hands to the face. Defense number 93. 1st down.
Matt Stafford took a big one at the end of this.
He dealt one out initially, but he caught the bad part of the last part.
Look at that. That.
Yeah, that is not something Jim Caldwell wants to see. You do not want your quarterback taking on anybody. I don't think a DB, you don't want him to do that unless he absolutely has to.
That was Damian Stafford who hit Matt Stafford on that play.
And it was Parrish Cox who was introduced to Stafford when he knocked him over. Lions now saying Antoine Williams, the linebacker, is questionable to return, not doubtful, so you might see him again. Inside 9 minutes to go in the 1st half.
And Lions continue to go no huddle. It's really worked well for them. And I think, I think the pace is something that has really forced the Tennessee Titans to communicate better defensively.
8th play of the drive. Stafford fires to Marvin Jones. And that is a catch. Short of a 1st down. It'll be 3rd and short for Detroit.
And that, a quick glance, it looked pretty good there. He stayed down. They're going to take a quick snap. Smart move.
On 3rd and 2, and Detroit does not get it. It was Rashad Johnson coming up along with Aaron Wallace to bring down Theo Riddick. And now what does Jim Caldwell do?
I think you got to stay on the field. You've been playing extremely good. You got an elite quarterback. And he's going to send his punting team out. Oh, my goodness. The crowd's not going to like that. I don't think I agree with it either. I know you got a lead, but that's the kind of momentum that really helps you, particularly at this point. Even if you don't get it, you still got the balls in their end, and your defense has been playing pretty well.
It would have been a 56-yard field goal from that spot. Instead, Sam Martin on to punt it away. Mariani lets it bounce, and the Lions down it inside the 10. 7:27 to go, 2nd quarter. Detroit leads 9-3.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Verizon. Welcome to Verizon LTE Advanced, the next-gen network. State Farm. Talk to an agent today at 800-STATE-FARM. And by Genesis. Take a breath of fresh luxury.
Once again, Tennessee starting with poor field position. Their average start has been their own 11. And this is the 3rd time out of 4 possessions they're starting inside the 10-yard line. It's DeMarco Murray has a hole. DeMarco Murray off to the races. Murray at the 50. Murray down the sideline, chasing behind and pushed down by Darius Slay. But DeMarco Murray busts out a big 67-yard run for Tennessee.
Well, let's watch the rookie Jack Conklin right here on the number 78. You say right there, he came out and got after somebody, as did the whole right side of that Tennessee Titans offensive line. That was the first time it seemed as though the Tennessee offensive line has been able to handle and dominate the line of scrimmage on a play, and the result very, very positive.
And they did it by firing off the football and didn't do any misdirection. They just could have had on a hat and let DeMarco Murray pick his spot.
Murray will catch his breath after that big run. Derrick Henry checks into the game. He gets the call on first down. Henry tripped up. Nicely done by Kyle Van Noy, third-year linebacker out of BYU.
You know, Steve, you were talking about the decision for Detroit not to go for it before the break. I think Jim Caldwell, he was trusting his defense to maintain the field position, and the last thing that he wanted was to allow a big play to get out of that hole. It backfired on him.
Well, also, too, I kind of got caught up in the moment. It was 4th and 3. It was the right move to punt that away. I was thinking, yeah, gosh, it's 4th and 1. You should try it. No, they did the right thing, but their defense let them down.
Tajay Sharp goes in motion. Mariota to the air. Passes deflected high in the air and incomplete. This Lions defense had 5 pass breakups last week by the front 7. They get their hands in the air. 6 batted balls last week in total by the defense.
Watch Tony Fasano right there. He's uncovered sitting right here. That's where Marcus Mariota was going with that football. Detroit very fortunate that they got a hand on that ball, because Tony Fasano would have caught that, turned up the field, had at least a 15-20-yard gain.
Rashawn Robinson got a hand on it just like he did last week against the Colts. On third down, Mariota in trouble. Mariota is sacked. Tevin Taylor again getting in the backfield, a loss of 12.
That's the one thing you didn't want to happen, because now they got a field goal of 55 yards instead of a 42-yarder. And that was a huge loss in field position. Sets Ryan Succop up. Now they've got to punt it away instead of trying the field goal. That's an enormous sack for the Lion defense, and for the big play they gave up at the beginning of the drive, they make up for it with 2 great defensive stands inside their own 30.
And that's a situation where Marcus Mariota, not that he had an option, but he's so confident in his running ability, he's got to find a way to get rid of that football and avoid taking that sack.
Taylor and Nata share the sack, and what a play! That was Cody Riggs, who just re-signed this week, downing it at the 1. Coming up on the Verizon Halftime Report, join JB, Tony, Bart, Boomer, and Coach Cower for all the latest NFL scores and highlights, as well as a preview of Thursday Night Football on CBS and the NFL Network. It's all coming up on the Verizon Halftime Report. So both teams punt in plus territory, and the punt by Tennessee leads to 1st and 10 for Detroit from the 1-yard line. Stafford hands off. Abdullah just trying to get a little bit of space. Maybe gets a yard on the play. Go back to that sack by Mariota, because, yeah, the sack took him out of field goal range. However, you look back to last week, he made 2 turnovers, 1 the terrible pick 6. So he's learning from his mistakes. He didn't want to do that again. So you think, all right, well, he did the right thing. But as you said, Steve Berline, maybe he could have thrown it away before.
Well, I came out and said I'm not blaming the sack on him right away, but you would like to think a veteran quarterback would know where there was a quick throw, not to complete a pass, but just to get rid of the ball without taking a sack or the illegal throwaway.
Stafford throwing on 2nd down, completes it at the 5-yard line to Marvin Jones. It'll be 3rd down for Detroit.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about the intentional ground. You don't want intentional ground, you don't want a sack. But Marcus Mariota, maybe he was a little paranoid about what had happened the week before, but a veteran quarterback knows the one thing you can't do there is take that sack. Even if there is a jailbreak, you got to find a way to get rid of that ball somehow.
See if the Titans defense can hold on 3rd down and 5. Detroit 2 for 4 on 3rd downs in the first half. Stafford fires to Jones for a 1st down. What a bullet pass by Matthew Stafford.
That was a fast ball, and Jones pulled it in. We saw him drop one earlier. Stafford comes right back to him. And this one, I don't think Stafford could throw this harder than he did. Now, he put everything. You can see that ball had almost 0 arc on it. And that was a bullet right to the right spot.
Stafford 9 for 14, 112 yards and a touchdown. Another rocket, this one incomplete, intended for Golden Tate. Earlier this week, Golden Tate joked as a flag has come down in the backfield. Here's Brad Allen, who's been busy.
Illegal use of the hands, hands to the face, number 93, defense. Target penalty, first down.
It's on the rookie Kevin Dodd, but Golden Tate joked that after football he wanted to be a hand model, but Matthew Stafford ruined those dreams because he throws it so hard his fingers are all deformed.
You see right there's the penalty. Hands to the face.
I don't even see it. He was on the collar. I don't think he actually went to the face.
7th penalty against Tennessee. What moves? Abdullah shaking and baking. Still going. Stafford with a block. And Abdullah finally taken down at the 44-yard line, a gain of 24.
And we said in the open that Matthew Stafford has really elevated his game, and Amir Abdullah and Theo Riddick have become great players. And look at the way Abdullah just makes people miss. And then the most important guy on your team, Matt Stafford, 20 yards down the field trying to throw blocks. Let me tell you something. That guy is somebody the Lions are going to rally around. You see Abdullah taking a seat over on the sideline. Probably twisted an ankle, or he's got something going on. But Matt Stafford continues to be an elite quarterback in every sense of the word.
That's incomplete pass. You saw the graphic up on Abdullah last week. 3.92 yards after contact per rush. That was the best in the NFL in week 1. And now the trainers are working with Abdullah. The Lions have already lost Ansah and Williams to injury. They haven't been ruled out, but they have not returned yet. Theo Riddick in the backfield next to Stafford on 2nd and 10.
Hey, give me Sooner! Back 54! Sooner!
Give it to Riddick. He's taken down. Damian Stafford coming up to make that tackle for Tennessee.
Hey, think about this. This is a drive that started inside their 1-yard line, and they have continued to move down the field meticulously. They look solid offensively.
2-minute warning in Detroit. Back in Detroit, 3rd down and 9 for the Lions. At the 2-minute warning, they have all 3 timeouts left. No coaches' challenges inside 2 minutes. All replays will be initiated by the replay booth. Stafford, quick pass, Jones, and he slaps a tackle. He's got the first down, and more. Marvin Jones still going, and dragged down inside the 10-yard line. Bryce McCain finally caught up with him. It's 1st and goal for Detroit.
Look what's happening here. The Titans are going to come with pressure off of this side. Matt Stafford identifies it quickly, knows he's got one-on-one on the outside. Marvin Jones Jr. breaks the tackle. Big play. Great identification out of Matthew Stafford, knowing where to go with that football against the pressure.
Parrish Cox missed the tackle. 1st and goal for the Lions. A 47-yard reception by Jones that ties his career long. Riddick to the 5. Now a moment ago, Amir Abdullah went into the Detroit locker room, the 3rd Lion to leave today because of injury. We're still waiting an update on what is bothering Abdullah, but the Lions have just had some critical injuries today. They started the game without DeAndre Levy, who's out with a quad injury. Tennessee with the timeout, 1:44 to go. Coming up on the Verizon halftime report. Join JB, Tony, Bart, Boomer, and Coach Cowher for all the latest NFL scores and highlights, as well as a preview of Thursday Night Football on CBS and the NFL Network. It's all coming up on the Verizon halftime report. Matthew Stafford with 3 touchdown passes in the red zone last week against the Colts. Since the start of last year, no quarterback has thrown more red zone touchdowns than Stafford, and that is a penalty. Parrish Cox having a tough drive. Missed the tackle on the big gain by Jones, and now called for a penalty with 1:40 to go.
I'll tell you what, the Lions went from impossible field position to horrible field position to bad field position.
Pass interference, defense number 20. The foul occurred in the end zone. The ball was placed at the 1-yard line.
To
Automatic.
good field
First
position
down.
to the red zone, and now 1st and goal. I mean, they've gone 98 yards on this drive and have not scored yet. That's how bad their field position was, and they have looked good doing it.
With 1:40 to go. Play action. Stafford on the run. Fires end zone. Caught. There is a flag down. Eric Ebron has the touchdown if it stands. And this is going against the Lions.
They're going to call Ebron for pushing off.
Pass interference. Offense number 85. 10-yard penalty. Remains second down.
You can see the poise of Matthew Stafford as the play. The Tennessee Titans defended it very well. But Matthew Stafford, see, he points back. He says, snap it back outside. I don't know. That angle didn't show much of a push-off at
He had
all.
his hand on the back. He had his hand on the back of Searcy, but that, I mean, that's allowed. I mean, he didn't push the guy. It didn't look like he got any advantage to doing that.
So 1st and goal, but the ball back at the 11-yard line. Stafford over the middle. Touchdown! Another flag is down. Anquan Boldin reels it in. Let's see what this penalty is.
Got a hold.
Offense number 72. 10-yard penalty. Second down.
That's the 3rd Lions touchdown called back today because of a penalty.
2 consecutive.
What a catch by Bolden in the end zone and a throw by Stafford.
They're calling it on Townsend right here. Yeah, he got beat off the ball. That was yeah, Lakeland Tomlinson. I'm sorry, I pronounced his name wrong, but that was definitely right off the ball, and that was obvious hold on Carl Klug.
So 1st and goal from the 21-yard line. 1:30 to go. They swing it to Golden Tate at the 15. Tate spins and still going inside the 10. And now another flag comes in as Carl Klug lost his helmet. And this one appears to be coming back.
Holding. Offense number 80. 10-yard penalty. First down.
So it was 1st and goal on the 1. That will be 1st and goal on the 31.
Wow.
Amazing. 10 penalties in the first half against Detroit
Well, you
for
can
80
see
yards.
That's a bear hug, and it is a hold. I mean, Bryce McCain. I'm sorry, it'll be 1st and goal on the 26, not the 31. But that is, wow.
Total of 18 penalties have been accepted in the first half. 4 in a row called on the Lions with 1:23 to play. Lions bench asking the fans to quiet down. Stafford pump fakes, fires, incomplete. Looking for Marvin Jones. It's 2nd and goal.
Well, one thing we know about number 9 back there is that he will keep slinging it. He's going to keep trying to find a way to get this ball in the end zone. You call a penalty, you can get as upset as you want, right, wrong, indifferent, it doesn't matter. He's going to find a way to take a shot and give his team to get in there.
Lions fans have answered the calls from the sideline to quiet down. And Stafford trying to communicate with his offense. 2nd and goal. Stafford gets rid of it, incomplete. Pressure was coming from Bryce McCain.
Yeah, that's a good move by the Tennessee defense to send some pressure, make him get rid of the football quickly so they can't get near the end zone. Dick LeBeau doing a great job, a Hall of Fame defensive coordinator. You sit down, we spoke with him. He's just an encyclopedia of knowledge. And He's the only guy in the league who can stand up in front of the room and say, listen, when I invented this defense, here's the reasons why I did it. And you're not going to put anything past him.
Always special. LeBeau told us coming back to Detroit, where he played his entire Hall of Fame playing career for the Lions, finishing with 62 career interceptions, a franchise record. 3rd and goal, they hand it off to Riddick. Riddick is taken down by Angelo Blackson. Mike Mularkey has called his final timeout, and Detroit will send out Matt Prater.
A very disappointing drive for the Lions. You go, as you said, Steve Tasker, to drive 98 yards down the field, be on the doorstep, and a questionable call, I believe, against Eric Ebron in the back of the end zone. That's the only one I really would question. Moved them out and just kept going backwards from there.
So here's Matt Prater trying to add to Detroit's lead. It's a 42-yard attempt from Prater, who last week hit the game-winning field goal against the Colts from 43 yards out. This kick is a knuckleball, but it's good. Disappointing finish to that drive by the Lions with all the penalties, yet they add 3 more on the scoreboard.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by FedEx, helping small businesses simplify e-commerce. And by Bud Light, beer with your team on it.
Tonight, what does a submarine with 200 nuclear warheads on it look like? Find out in a new story on 60 Minutes, plus an interview with the Libertarian candidates for president. That's tonight on 60 Minutes. So Detroit has had 3 touchdowns wiped out because of penalties today. The Prater field goal makes it 12-3. Now Sam Martin to kick it away to Mark Mariani. Titans do not have any timeouts remaining. We'll see how they play it. And Antonio Andrews grabs that one. And Andrews up to the 17-yard line. Mariota comes back out. No timeouts left in 58 seconds. Mariota 9 of 12 in the first half for 74 yards. See Dick LeBeau had his 7th hole-in-one over the summer. And he said that when he hit it, he thought it was a good shot, but at the age of 79, he said, my eyes aren't that good anymore. So he asked the guy he was playing with, said, hey, how'd that one go? And he said, it went in the hole, Dick. He had no idea. Mariota escapes trouble. And throws this one incomplete. He was threw it high at Rashard Matthews. Dick LeBeau coming back to Detroit, where he spent his entire 14-year Hall of Fame playing career. The 62 interceptions, a franchise record. And how about this? He's come back as a coach to face the Lions 19 times. He's 17-2 against his former team, including 8-0 as a defensive coordinator. On 2nd and 10, Mariota completes this pass. It goes to Rashard Matthews, but again, Tennessee no timeouts. Lions have all 3 timeouts left. And it's 3rd down and 3. Mariota in trouble, and Kerry Hyder again.
Yeah, use the timeout use the timeout if you're Detroit.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you, one of the things that Detroit is doing so well, and Kerry Hyder's a name that keeps kind of popping up, but in general, we're going to reset the game clock to 27 seconds, but the ability to keep Marcus Mariota contained and not to allow him out of the pocket to make any positive yards running the football has been very impressive.
Yeah, that's the strategy, because he is so fast as a quarterback, and as I said in the open, he had the longest run from scrimmage for a touchdown in the National Football League last year at quarterback. a 78-yarder, he can scoot, and you've got to keep him in the pocket and not let that be a factor.
It's actually 87 yards against the Jaguars. And that was a sack for Hyder, his third of the season. As Andre Roberts on the return, he gets to the 34-yard line. Lions get the ball back, 15 seconds and 2 timeouts. How would you play it if you're Jim Caldwell?
Well, if you look what happened last week, 37 seconds, so they had 3 timeouts. I'd let Matthew Stafford go.
Back in Detroit with Steve Berline, Steve Tasker. I'm Andrew Catalan, our entire NFL on CBS crew. 15 seconds left in the first half. Lions have 2 timeouts. Matt Prater has kicked a 64-yard field goal in his career, the longest in NFL history. Let's see how Jim Caldwell and the Lions play it here.
They got to get about 26 yards minimum. That's time for 2 plays. If you can get 2 completions, you got the timeouts.
And he can use the middle of the field because of the timeouts. Stafford pressure coming, and he's sacked. Kevin Dodd, the rookie out of Clemson, with his first NFL sack. And Jim Caldwell will let the time run out, and that will be the final play of the first half. Well, 18 penalties in that first half. It all adds up to a 12-3 Lions lead on the Titans as Detroit tries to go 2-0 for the first time since 2011.
I think for the Tennessee Titans, they've got to continue to stay with the run, play ball control football, and keep Matt Stafford off the field. They've got to shorten this game, but they've got to be more efficient in scoring position.
That's the end of the half with the Lions leading 12-3. We'll be back with the Verizon halftime report after this message and a word from your local station. Start of the second half in Detroit. The Lions lead the Titans 12-3. Let's take a look at the first half highlight presented by DirecTV. And what a touchdown pass. Matthew Stafford on the run, completing it to Anquan Boldin, the only touchdown of the first half here at Ford Field. Meanwhile, September is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and we here at CBS are so proud to partner with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital to help raise awareness for this incredible cause. We're all proud to wear a St. Jude tie and pin for the entire month of September. So, Lions lead it 12-3, and again, a theme just like last week for Detroit, yards after contact. They are so dangerous in space, and we saw that in the first half.
Yeah, we did see it in the first half. Amir Abdullah had a couple of nice runs. You saw Marvin Jones taking care of the one-on-one matchup on the outside. These are guys that have that big play ability. We knew it was going to come down to tackling for the Tennessee Titans right there. Very Barry Sanders-esque. Not calling him Barry Sanders, but kind of brings back memories of the Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and there's no question. That's the thing with Matt Stafford. He's got to get the football out of his hand. Look for the Lions to go more no huddle and go more pace, because that's really helped them force the Titans to communicate better on defense. They've gotten some mismatches out there, and I think Matt Stafford is more comfortable doing it. I think it's one of the things that have been the hallmark. It puts more pressure on the Tennessee Titan defense, and their offense, as we've seen, has a hard time scoring points fast. So the bigger they can make this lead, the less chance there is that the Titans just don't have the weapons to catch up.
Well, as you look at the stats right there, the Titans are lucky to be only down 12-3 at this point. What they need to do, they have not been able to really find their rhythm offensively yet. They've got to get that running game going. We talked about it in the open, but they've also got to count on their young star quarterback to make a few plays and get some confidence going for them offensively.
Andre Roberts back deep to receive the second half kickoff, and it will be a touchback to the 25-yard line. Take a look at the quarterbacks in the first half, Stafford and Mariota. And Stafford, the only touchdown in that first half. The completion to Anquan Boldin. A combined 18 accepted penalties in the first half. The NFL record is 37. Came back in 1951 when Cleveland took on the Bears.
It was a painful first half for everybody. The fans didn't like it. We were struggling up here, but and the officials, I think, have rotator cuff problems from throwing so many flags.
It's Riddick on first down. And Riddick across the 30-yard line. Still no Amir Abdullah. You saw him have that nifty run in the first half and then leave for the locker room. We have not seen Abdullah return. We have not seen Ziggy Ansah, who went out early with an ankle injury, return. And we have not seen Antoine Williams return, the linebacker for the Lions. 3 key injuries for Detroit. Marvin Jones makes the catch at the 37, gets by 1, and picks up a Detroit first down. Marvin Jones with his 6th catch of the day and now over 100 yards receiving. He's got 108. His career high is 122. Just his 2nd 100-yard receiving game in his career. It's Riddick running right. Penalty flag is down. How about that? Ball came out late, but the whistle came first. So they're saying that Riddick was down. Tennessee indicating that should be their football. Denoris Searcy recovered.
They're not even looking for the football, the officials. They don't think this play is going to stand.
There's a flag down as well.
That doesn't even look like any of the officials spotted where the football was. This is a confusing play. The flag came in very late as the play was developing toward the sideline. As you can see there, that's the 40-yard line that the flag sits on.
Well, the penalty's related, I believe, to Golden Tate coming in motion inside, either on a crackback
The ruling on the field is that the runner's forward progress was stopped. However, there was an illegal shift by the offense. That's a 5-yard penalty. It will be first down.
And that's what happened. You could hear Matthew Stafford. They wanted Golden Tate to move off the line of scrimmage, move the tight end onto the line of scrimmage. Well, they have to get set then before Tate goes in motion.
I thought they did get set.
Not quite. Well, you see here, watch. They both have to be, you see, Tate started in motion before Ebron got his feet set, and that's illegal.
Yep, you're right.
That's 2 men in motion at the same time. And that's, it's basic football 101.
Yeah,
and the players do this so often, they take it for granted, but they've got to do it by the numbers the officials will call it.
Yeah, you got to give it a full count.
So the penalty makes it 1st and 15. Stafford with pressure coming, steps up and runs into Brian Orakpo. 8th-year man out of Texas brings down Matthew Stafford, and it's 2nd and long.
And this is good pressure. The pocket just collapses around him. Jurrell Casey, and then Orakpo comes off the inside. And you can see there Decker trying to help Stafford out, but they get tangled up in the traffic, and it ends up in a sack.
First sack of the season for Orakpo, the 48th of his career. Stafford over the middle, and that pass is caught by Bolden. Searcy and Williamson combine on the tackle, and Stafford is a little slow to get up.
Yeah, Casey came in low.
Well, he didn't come in low. He got tripped and taken down, so he was just trying to get. You'll see 98, 99 right there on the edge. He falls down, and he just keeps trying to get to Stafford. Now that's a point of emphasis this year. He was already on the ground. He can't elevate himself. It's if he intentionally goes low. I don't think you can fault Casey for that one.
Dan Orlovsky, the backup quarterback. Stafford making his 84th straight start. He's been incredibly healthy in his career. And just wings this one away. And Stafford's still hot. He's hurt. Very upset.
Yeah, he knows that's a point of emphasis. He wants to know why that wasn't called. I don't know what the official's telling him, but that's been called for less than that all the way across the league, all through the preseason.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I know why he's hot, and
I know why he's hot too. He doesn't like getting hit low. But the bottom line is Casey was on the ground. What's he going to do? He's got the right to get to the quarterback. At that point, it's the rules in place if a guy goes low intentionally when he doesn't have to.
Mariani from the 10. Hey, guess what? Flag's down. This one up to the 23-yard line. And we'll see what this penalty is.
Yeah, this is turning into it's ugly. really ugly with all the flags. And, you know, I'll tell you, when you throw flags as many as they have, you're going to have debates on which ones are good and which ones are bad, like you and I are.
Illegal blocking the back, number 23 of the return team. After this is to the goal. First down. Timeout.
That's the third penalty today against Bryce McCain. Matthew Stafford and the Lions lead the Titans 12-3 with 12:18 to go in the third quarter. And once again, Tennessee with poor field position. Been a theme for them today. Fourth start inside the 10-yard line. Mariota throwing on the first down. That's incomplete. And let's go back to Matthew Stafford, who is very hot after this play.
Casey goes in, no question he's down, and he keeps traveling towards Stafford. I've seen that called as a penalty.
I have not seen it called as a penalty. I've seen it called when a guy has got a free run to the quarterback and he intentionally goes low.
The only time I've not seen
And I'm
that
a quarterback.
is when they've seen the guy try and miss his legs with their body and grab with his legs. I think seen that not called, but he hit him with your helmet.
What can you do in that situation? What can you do?
You got to avoid the guy's leg with your body.
You can't do it.
To Marco Murray to the 10-yard line. It'll be third down.
We're going to get
We'll
to the
agree to disagree.
Yeah, we're gonna. I'm gonna call and see if I can get a clarification. Because I'll tell you what.
Well, what I know is very clear right now is the Tennessee Titans need a first down. They need to get this ball out of their own end of the field.
Yeah, it started
Marcus Mariota's got to make a play here.
It started with a bad throw by Mariota on first down. He made the throw low and behind. Tennessee needs to stay on the field here and get some rhythm offensively. And it starts with their guys up front.
2 for 6 on third downs. 3rd and 6 for Tennessee. Mariota gets away. He's going to keep it himself. And Mariota appears to have a first down. That's what makes him so dangerous. It was right at the sticks. So this will be based on the spot.
Wow.
It's spotted right on it. Yeah, you just can't tell.
Oh, they're giving it to him. They're giving it to him. You know what? If I'm Jim Caldwell, I'd like to see another look at this because it looked like he ran out around the, well, let's see. You see there, I mean, I don't think, there's no way he made that.
His feet are short of it.
They're giving him the 11. His feet are short of it, and he's out of bounds.
No challenge called for by Jim Caldwell. It's 1st and 10 for the Titans. Mariota over the middle, and the pass is complete to Tajae Sharpe, the rookie, bringing in his second catch of the day.
Yeah, this is the kind of play that Mariota is so good at. Throwing the football 10 to 20 yards down the field, over the middle on a quick release, threading it through the defense and finding the window. He's accurate enough and quick release enough, and that's why this offense works when he's able to do that.
Mariota surveying the scene. And completes this to his tight end, Delanie Walker, who is taken down very close to a first down. Zaire Whitehead makes the tackle.
And this is the rhythm that the Titans have been looking for all through the first half, and now they seem to have found it here on their first drive in the second.
Yeah, Terry Robisky, the offensive coordinator, Mike Mularkey, coming out the second half with the quick passing game, being more aggressive on first and second down instead of trying to pound that ball up in there. They were not successful in the first half doing that.
2nd down and 1. Walker taken down just short of a first. DeMarco Murray has the first down across the 40 to the 42-yard line. Now the Lions defense last week in Indianapolis got lit up. It all added up to 450 total yards allowed. 297 came in the second half. Andrew Luck picked apart that defense, and Lions were able to make a comeback at the end, but that defense was certainly in the spotlight this week here in Detroit.
Yeah, prior to the 2-minute drill at the end of the first half, they really had shut down Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts, but second half on, it was a fireworks show.
Play action to Murray. Mariota taking a deep shot from Matthews, and it's picked off! Glover Quinn with the interception. Tennessee has not taken a lot of deep shots down the field, even going back to last week. They try one here, and it's costly.
NFL on CBS is sponsored by Southwest. Yes to low fares with nothing to hide. That's transparency. Coors Light. Whatever your mountain, climb on. And by Domino's. Order online at Domino's.com.
Marcus Mariota throws his second interception of the season. One last week, returned for a touchdown. This one by Glover Quinn is the 20th of his career, and the Lions go back on offense, 1st and 10 from their own 27-yard line. It's Washington, and there's a flag. Amir Abdullah's return is questionable. He's out with a foot injury. So 3 Lions
Holding.
questionable to
Offense,
return.
72. 10-yard penalty. First down.
That's on Laken Tomlinson, his second, as we go back to the INT.
I want you to watch Glover Quinn right here. It's a rollout by Mariota. All of his action is going to the right side. You're going to see just a streak route by the receiver on the outside, and Mariota, his action pulls Glover Quinn that way right into the throw. That's the decision. The quarterback only has to worry about the safety. He didn't do his job and find that safety. Bad play for the Titans.
Stafford under center with 8:25 to go in the third quarter. Again, Washington at running back. He gets the call. Tomlinson blocks, and Washington still on his feet for a Detroit first down. Avery Williamson finally catches up with him, but a gain of 28 yards for Dwayne Washington.
Yeah, he's going to get some action here in the second half. 7th-round draft choice out of Washington. Great run. Nice job up front by the big boys, giving him a chance. It shows good balance.
Well, we've spoken a lot about it, and of course you see Washington come in. He's another guy that's getting a lot of yards after contact. Tennessee can't get these guys on the ground when the first defender gets to the football, and it's turning into big gains for the Lions.
We spoke with Matt Stafford on Friday. He said Washington's a really interesting guy. He's curious to see how his role will develop, what it will be. They've used him in power situations, but he's also got some speed. Play action here, and Stafford the rebound for another Lions first down. And a flag comes in late.
This is on Golden Tate, and this is a peel back block that is a 15-yard penalty.
Golden Tate knows better than that, too.
Yeah, he came in, and you can see Damian Stafford took it. And this is an illegal play, and he should know better.
Yeah, that's been a point of emphasis for several years now, the illegal crackback on a defenseless defender.
It was Damian Stafford who took the shot from Golden Tate.
After the play was over, personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 15, offense. We have 15-yard penalty. First down.
The Stafford looks like he's moving okay here. No limp there, and a nice throw on the money again there on the run. But afterwards.
Yeah, and this is the play right here. Stafford coming over. And I get this. It's an instinctive play. And you do it, you're going to do it no matter what. I mean.
And it used to be part of the game.
It used to be part of the game. It was just no big deal.
That
but now, because of player safety for obvious reasons, they took that out of the game. But I can see Golden Tate. You know, he's just trying to he's just being reactive. I mean, he's not trying to, it wasn't dirty, and it wasn't cheap either. It was just, it wasn't flagrant. I think it was an instinctive play that you just, you afterwards just thinking, what was I doing? But, you can see why it's been outlawed. That's
what they've got to do in that situation is just try to get in the way. Just impede the guy instead of taking any kind of a shot at him.
Nearly as many penalties in the game as first downs. 22 penalties. And 25 first downs combined between the Titans and Lions with 7:20 to go. It's Washington across the 45. And it will be second down. With NFL Game Pass, replay every game this season, including playoffs and Super Bowls. Start a free trial today at NFL.com/Game Pass. This might not be a popular opinion, and we've said it. It's a very choppy game with 22 accepted penalties.
I have agreed with the majority of the calls. I haven't seen too many egregious calls.
I would agree with you, Andrew. The one I would question is the Ebron call on the touchdown, the short touchdown pass. But everything else, I think they've been on.
Stafford looking for Jones, and he couldn't bring this one in. In the first half, a very similar play where Jones came back to try to make the catch, not this time.
Yeah, and it's the exact same throw, probably exact same play call, and it's almost, I mean, he caught one, he dropped one.
Should have been the same result.
Yeah, it should have been.
Ball was on the money.
That's 2 drops for Jones Jr. But I agree with you about the penalties. I mean, we debated the Matt Stafford hit, and you can always do that. But for the most part, the officials have done their job.
3rd down and 6. Detroit 4 for 8 on 3rd down conversions. High snap. Stafford fields it, fires, and it's caught for another Detroit 1st down. Eric Ebron with his 3rd catch of the day.
This is a nice shot. Flexible tight end, versatile tight end. Ebron right there, big boy on the outside, but very athletic. Nice throw and catch.
That's a sharp route.
It was very nice. It did not look like a tight end. We also debated that Tajay Sharp hit on the crackback call that they called earlier in the game as well. We questioned that one. We thought that was a questionable call.
6 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. It's Riddick running right, and Carl Klug was not fooled by that one, coming across to make the tackle. Back to New York, an NFL Today update with JB and Coach Cowher.
53-yarder to Sammy. Coach sets this up.
Yeah, it's a 9-yard touchdown pass to Jesse James, the tight end, the 2nd tight end touchdown reception of the day. Pittsburgh is up 17-6 over Cincinnati.
All right, Andrew, Steve.
And JB, in that game, in the first half, there was a combined 3 penalties. Everyone was worried about Bengals Steelers. There was 3 penalties in the first half there, 18 here in Detroit.
Pittsburgh's looking pretty good.
2nd and 9, Stafford using up the play clock. Over the middle, contact, and there's the penalty. Golden Tate, the intended receiver, and a bad day appears to be continuing for Parrish Cox.
He's saying they just got their feet tangled up. We'll get a good look at it, I'm sure.
Holding. Defense, number 20. 5-yard penalty, automatic. 1st down.
The only thing you have to look for, does Parrish Cox grab the jersey of Tate? Well, I don't know. That to me is a no call.
Yeah, we just start talking about how they've done a good job, and then we get that one.
That should have been a non-call to me.
Yeah, you're right, Parrish, right there. That should not have been called, in our opinion.
Tate's feet slipped out from underneath. That was.
Titans have 5 times as many penalties this week as they did in week 1. Stafford looking for the home run ball deep for Tate, and it's incomplete. Coverage by Cox, and the safety Rashad Johnson also coming over.
Cox has got to be paranoid now. He's looking for that flag every time a play is anywhere in his vicinity. I don't blame him.
Yeah, and you can't blame the Lions for trying to go at him again either.
His confidence has got to be a little shaken right now. Stafford sensing it, trying to go over the top.
And you know what? That's a good offensive coordinator. Jim Bob Cooter's over there thinking, you know what? Let's just see and give it a try.
Stafford has thrown 199 consecutive passes without an interception. Trying to go clean for the 5th straight game. Hands off to Riddick here, up to the 35. It'll be 3rd down and short for Detroit.
Oh, Detroit fans hate you right now.
I'm just giving the stats.
I know, I get you, but this is a nice run up inside. Once again, Detroit, nice balance between the run and the pass, get a nice little 6-yard gain on a 2nd down and long, and Jim Bob Cooter has really turned into, he's an outstanding offensive coordinator. You just got to say it. They have played great under his watch offensively.
3rd and 4, Titans coming with heat. Stafford throws, and it's complete for a 1st down with Baldwin. There is a flag down at the 28-yard line.
This is on
Bolden.
This is Bolden.
Pass interference. Offense, number 80. 10-yard penalty. 3rd down.
Well, they're equal opportunity penalties. They called one on Ebron earlier. Now Anquan Bolden. They've been calling him on the defensive backs of the Titans all day. And this one's coming back.
Now Jim Caldwell's got to be wondering, what in the world, how many yards have they lost and points have they lost due to penalties today? This game really should not be close.
Inching closer to the NFL record of 37 combined penalties. Right now we've had 24, with still over a quarter to go. Stafford keeps it himself. Back to 40. Back to first down. And Stafford, not so gracefully, comes down after a gain of 24.
Oh, he's gonna get killed in film tomorrow.
Oh, you hit it right, Andrew. Great job. Dick LeBeau told us nobody talks about the mobility of Matthew Stafford. They won't be talking about the grace of him either, but what a great job sensing the soft spot. He's out of breath now. Dick LeBeau, though, he did tell us he was worried about the mobility of Matthew Stafford.
That's from the Steve Berline School of Sliding right there.
Yes.
Matthew Stafford, a career-long run of 24. Washington gets a yard.
That you can see. But every quarter, you guys are all alike. Let me just tell you, Steve Berline, you run for 25 yards. The next play, you're going to hand it off to somebody. That ball is staying on the ground.
Probably two plays.
He can hardly raise his voice to communicate now. They're going no huddle. You just knew he was going to hand that football off.
He's got 31 yards rushing. Second down and 8. Throws left, incomplete, looking for Jones, and there's a penalty flag in the backfield.
This might be Reef, the right tackle.
Personal foul, roughing the passer, contact to the passer's helmet. Number 51, defense, automatic, first down.
That's on David Bass, who's getting extended time today in place of the injured Derek Morgan.
Coming right in. Oh, yeah, he had his hand up right on the back of his helmet.
Yeah, you just got to know, but in one place you can't hit him is the head.
And it doesn't look, compared to all the other things we've seen today with the peel back block and all of that, you cannot put your hand up on the quarterback's head. You can't even touch it. And he had his hand up, and it went right up the back of Stafford's head. That's a good call.
No doubt.
First and goal from the 10. Stafford to Jones, and McCourty tags him down at the 9.
Yes, it's kind of a frustrating game, I'm sure, for the fans watching with all the penalties. It's kind of frustrating for us. We're talking more about them than we are the action on the field because they're so prevalent in this game. And I think, even the players starting to look around at each other going, it's kind of like something's in the air that's causing all of this.
Man-to-man across the top right there.
12th play of the drive. Stafford looks that way, comes back to Riddick, makes the catch and then drops it. Riddick is an excellent receiver out of the backfield, but that one he could not hold on to.
Oh, they had it lined up like they wanted. It looked like you can see there the open spot. He was going to be able to turn that corner if he could just pull it in, and they couldn't make the connection. That was a well thought out play, and the coverage was perfect.
Yep.
As you pointed out, it was man across the board.
They had the look they wanted. They probably had some kind of a pick on that screen on the linebacker, and Riddick, if he catches it clean, he gets into the end zone.
They had offensive lineman out in front of him. Decker was out there.
Third down and goal. Titans defense trying to hold Detroit to another field goal. Stafford, end zone, incomplete. No flags. It was Damian Stafford on the coverage.
That was well defended on both ends. They had good pressure, kept Stafford in the pocket. And
injured Lion here. It's Eric Ebron.
Looked like he may have hit his head on the turf going for that ball.
He missed all of the preseason with an ankle injury. Ebron down with 1:44 to go in the third quarter. Eric Ebron, who was down before we went to commercial, did walk under his own power to the Detroit sideline. Here's another look at it.
Well, you can see here as he turns back, he's going to come down on the side of his helmet. And as he turns over, you can tell he knows right away he's in some pain. And now he will be in the protocol there as they start asking him questions. You see he's laughing about it now, which is
good sign.
Yeah, it's a good sign. But that guy there in the suit and tie is taking it pretty seriously, as he should.
So Matt Prater out for a 27-yard field goal attempt. He's 1 for 1 today. And this one is good. So with 1:40 to go in the third quarter, the Lions lead is now 15-3 over the Titans.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. And by CenturyLink, your link to what's next.
Back in Detroit, home opener for the Lions as they try to go to 2-0. They lead the Titans 15-3. Sam Martin will kick it away, and Mark Mariani is back deep. Injury update: Ziggy Ansah and Antoine Williams will not return for the Lions. Some key injuries for Detroit. A touchback for Martin, and the Titans will start this next drive at the 25-yard line. When we come back, you're watching the NFL on CBS. Week 2 continues later today on CBS, and for some of you on Fox, and then tonight with Sunday Night Football on NBC, and tune in tomorrow for Monday Night Football on ESPN. That's a big day in Detroit. First time ever, the Lions have cheerleaders. Fans have been asking for it, and the Lions granted that wish this year. So day 1 of the Detroit Lions cheerleaders. Earlier, this was the NFL and the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant looking at the video of that Eric Ebron hit. Safety, #1 priority for the NFL. 1:40 to go, third quarter. Titans trail 15-3. First and 10 from the 25-yard line. Play action to Henry. Mariota over the middle. Wide open is Rashard Matthews. Takes a big hit from Tavon Wilson, but he gets to the 45 after a gain of 20.
I really like the play. This is a great hard play action, and Mariota decisive. He knew exactly where his receiver was going to be. That ball was on the money, over the linebackers, under the safety. Rashard Matthews snapped it off perfectly.
With 1 minute to go in the third quarter, it's Derrick Henry following his blockers into Detroit territory and finally taken down at the 48-yard line by Tyrone Walker.
Yeah, one of the things that happened on this, the Lions went into a 2-deep safety look. They only had 6 guys in the box. The Titans had 5 offensive linemen and a tight end in there. They had enough blockers for everybody in the box. Just handed off. They had a hat on a hat. Turned into a nice game.
Titans only had 64 yards rushing last week, 113 today with still a quarter to go. Mariota fires high and a flag on Nevin Lawson. And now a second flag comes in.
I think they're all both for the same thing. One of the officials had trouble getting it out of his pocket.
That hasn't been a problem for much of the day.
Yeah, you'd think they didn't tuck it away too far.
Had a lot of practice.
Pass interference. Defense number 24.
Oh, there it is.
The ball is placed at the spot of the foul.
You mean it's wrong to grab him by the collar there?
Lawson had him by the collar, hoping the officials were at the wrong angle to see it, but yeah, that was an easy call.
But it looks like right now the Titans are playing a strict numbers game. That time, Steve, they had 7 men in the box, inside the tackle tight end box. And that tells the quarterback to throw when you're trying to spread the field like that. Now, more conventional setup now.
Play action. Mariota wanted to go deep, instead checks down to Henry at the 40. Henry, right at the chains, is forced out of bounds by Whitehead.
Yeah, Kyle Van Noy dropped into coverage, and something happened. He had to give up on the play, totally gave himself up. He should have been covering the back, and he stayed down. It was a non-contact injury.
And this is Van Noy, who we mentioned now with Williams out for the game. Van Noy is just one of just 3 linebackers the Lions have who's healthy, and now he's down.
Yeah, that leaves only Armbrister and Whitehead left as linebackers on on the roster.
Yeah, they're going to have to move Tavon Wilson or Miles Killebrew down. I look for Killebrew maybe to move in. If they do go short on linebackers, they'll bring a safety in.
Well, we talked about this, so that Tennessee is very well aware of this situation now. If they know that they only have 2 active linebackers, I expect Terry Robiskie, Mike Mularkey to line up and start pounding that ball up in there.
Yeah, you can bet that Delaney Walker and Anthony Fasano will be on the field together and trying
only
to
2 scores down.
Oh,
so.
yeah.
So the linebackers for Detroit who are healthy as of right now, Whitehead, who's a starter, and Armbrister, who we haven't seen much of today and was inactive last week.
Watch him. He's going to be right here, and he's going to back out of there and drop into coverage, and watch him. Something's going to happen to him, and he can't even, he's limping. He has to stop right away.
Do it right away.
That's strange.
Very strange. Yeah, he knew something was wrong.
Van Noy was roommates at BYU with Ziggy Ansah. Both of those players have had to leave today because of injury.
So we see Tennessee right now in a big formation. They've got 2 wide receivers, the running back, 2 tight ends on the field. We're going to see them get a little physical here, I think.
Armbrister has replaced Van Noy. Henry, big bruising back right into the heart of that Detroit defense for a first down.
Now, on a 2nd and short, that's a pretty easy call to make. A lot of teams will try and go deep, but as the quarter ends, Tennessee's got to be looking at themselves going, all right, what are we going to do? Let's make a decision.
After 3, it's 15-3 in favor of the Lions. Tahir Whitehead and the Lions at the start of the 4th quarter lead the Titans 15-3, but Tennessee driving 1st and 10 from the Detroit 30-yard line. Mariota looking deep for Walker. He's got it. Touchdown, Titans. Delaney Walker with his first touchdown of the season.
What a throw. What a throw.
The Detroit defense continues to struggle guarding the tight end. They gave up 3 touchdowns last week and 1 today.
Well, good job by Mariota. As he gets more experience in his career, he'll even try harder to hold that safety who almost comes over and makes the play there. But he got that ball in there on the money, on time to Delaney Walker. Boy, did the Tennessee Titans need that.
25th career touchdown catch for Delaney Walker. A 5-play, 75-yard drive. And now here's Ryan Succop for the extra point. And with 14:54 to go, we've got a 1-possession game. 15-10 is the score, and on that drive, Mariota 3 for 3 for 59 yards. Looks to have a bit of a cut. He's bleeding on the inside of his right leg.
They're working on his calves on both sides.
Overall numbers for Mariota, 15 of 21, 161, the touchdown and the interception.
What you gonna?
Well, the king of comedy is back on CBS. Kevin James returns in Kevin Can Wait. Premieres tomorrow after The Big Bang Theory, only CBS. Mariota looks to be okay. He's had great numbers in his career on the road coming into today in 6 road starts, 10 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's got 1 touchdown and 1 pick so far today. We spoke with him last night and asked him about the turnovers last week. 2 of them, which both led to touchdowns, and he said, look, it's like a sour taste in my mouth. I take all of my mistakes personally, but I'm confident that I'm only going to make the same mistake once. I'm not going to do it twice, and I know I'll learn from what happened last week. Lions will start the drive at the 25 as we go back to the touchdown.
All right, here's Delaney Walker right here. What I want you to see, he's going to run up the seam right through here, and you got another seam route right through here. Watch the safety right there. That's what Mariota is looking for. He's the only one that can stop this play. As he gets more experience, he'll find a way to work that safety more to the other seam, because he knew right from the beginning he wanted to go to Delanie Walker. You got to try and help your receiver out. Fortunately, that ball was thrown perfectly, and a receiver made a nice catch.
And then he hands it to a young Lions fan. How about that? First and 10, Stafford over the middle, completes it to Riddick out of the backfield, slips a tackle. That is why Detroit, their running backs out of the backfield, so dangerous in space, as Kevin Dodd finally catches up to Riddick.
Yeah, we sound like a broken record. Once again, a broken tackle by the running backs of Detroit to get more yards after a catch turns into an 8-yard gain instead of a 4-yard gain. 2nd and 2 really is a lot tougher to defend than 2nd and 6. But that's what the Titans got themselves into by missing tackles.
Titans have still not forced a turnover this season. Stafford on the run. And Marvin Jones brings that one down. 8th catch today for Marvin Jones. Gain of 10.
That's a nice play by Matthew Stafford, or by Marvin Jones. Really, the ball was late from Matthew Stafford. That ball should have been thrown earlier, in my opinion, coming out. Jones was open from the very get-go, and Stafford bought a little time. Fortunately, Jones was able to still make the play.
8 catches, 118 yards, moving closer to his career high of 122. Ebron in motion. Good sign to see him back in the game after he left earlier. And Riddick is slammed down by Avery Williamson.
Yeah,
Ebron,
excuse me, Andrew. Ebron coming back into the field doesn't mean he's been totally cleared of the concussion. They're going to continue to monitor him every time he comes off the field. They'll go back and recheck him throughout the game to make sure that there isn't a delayed reaction to the contact he had with the ground earlier.
Lions have still got no huddle here, but slowing down a bit. They have different speeds that they can operate their no huddle. And as Jim Bob Cooter, the offensive coordinator, told us on Friday, a lot depends on the defense. Does the defense need a little time to catch its breath? Riddick spins away and picks up another Lions first down. Gain of 10 for Theo Riddick.
Jarrell Casey had 2 hands on him, and he couldn't pull him in. That's not something you see very much.
And there's an injured Titan.
That's Daquan Jones, is it? No, it's Williamson.
No, it's not Jones. It's Avery Williamson, the 3rd-year linebacker out of Kentucky. And as the Titans attend to him, will step aside. Thursday, your weekend starts here when the Houston Texans tangle with the New England Patriots. It's Thursday Night Football on CBS and NFL Network. And in the Patriots-Dolphins game, Jimmy Garoppolo went out with an injury, will not return. And now a short week for New England, getting ready for the Texans on Thursday. Meanwhile, Avery Williamson still on the field here in Detroit as the Titans training staff attends to the 3rd-year linebacker. Let's take another look.
Yeah, it's easy to see what happens to him. At the end of this play, he's going to just kind of clean up. The cleanup on the tackle is what's going to get him. As he turns, spins back in, he gets, you see there, it's pretty obvious why he's in some discomfort right here.
His arm, his head, a lot of...
Yeah, and they got him sitting up, kind of making him move his shoulders and kind of wiggle his spine a little bit to see if he's... Okay, yeah, that's, I'm telling you what. It hurts. I remember, I mean, that's one of the things I do not miss about playing football. Once in a while, it hurts.
Williamson leads the team with 6 tackles. A lot of injuries today. Amir Abdullah will not return because of a foot injury. The Garoppolo injury in New England was a shoulder. He's out for the game. So injuries in week 2. A story as Stafford is brought down. Carl Klug getting back there for the sack. A loss of 6.
That was the best pressure from the front 4 of the Tennessee Titans. You're going to see a real nice pressure off the edge. Coming up the field, Stafford has to step up, and Klug is right there doing what he's supposed to do, closing that lane. Yeah. Nice play by the Tennessee Titans defense.
Tight little inside swim on Tomlinson.
Each team with 3 sacks. It's 2nd and 16. Stafford again has slowed down the tempo here on this drive. Working some clock. 2 on the play clock. Stafford out of the shotgun. Looking deep down the sideline. And incomplete. Golden Tate nearly had that one. The whole stadium thought he had it. We did too. But in the end, he could not bring it in.
If he pulled this one, it might have topped Odell Beckham. I don't know. Well, maybe not. But still would have been a heck of a catch.
It looked until the very end as though he had it. 2nd tip, 3rd tip, and on the 4th one, the ground makes it jar loose. And Matt Stafford went from fist bump to head grab. Oh.
That's a big play because now 3rd down and 16 from midfield. Titans trying to get the ball back. They only trail by 5. A screen to Riddick. Gets away from 1. Riddick still on his feet. And he's tackled short on the 1st down. Brought down at the 42-yard line after a gain of 8. And now Jim Caldwell is sending out the punter, Sam Martin.
Yeah, it'd be a 60-yarder from there.
Yeah, and this is just a screen pass. They're hoping that, there you go, they get the one broken tackle, but the Titans rally hard. Defensive linemen coming back, Klug and Casey and Daquan Jones all coming back to make that tackle to keep that from getting into field goal range.
Mariani back deep, awaiting the punt from Sam Martin, who's the NFC Special Teams Player of the Week after a franchise record 55.5 net average last week against the Colts. And the play clock has expired.
Delay of game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. 4th down.
You might want to decline it.
27 penalties now combined today.
Makes it a more difficult, an
easier
easier punt.
They had the option to decline it
Yeah, you
anymore?
could decline,
I don't know if you don't ever see them decline it anymore.
It's an easier punt now.
It is an easier punt now. They got more room.
But it's further to cover as well. And you're talking a game of inches on these return games. Sometimes that extra 5 yards is all you need to give up a bigger.
Mariani, fair catch at the 8-yard line. With 10:35 to go, Tennessee going back on offense. They trail by 5.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Progressive, handing off big savings to you. Walmart, save money, live better. And by the Lincoln Motor Company and the exhilarating new Lincoln MKZ.
For the 5th time today, the Titans will start the drive inside their own 10-yard line. 15-10 with 10:35 to go in the 4th quarter. DeMarco Murray on 1st down. Across the 10 and down at the 12-yard line, Tavon Wilson comes up to make the tackle. Let's see how the Titans play it. We've told you about the injuries to the linebackers for Detroit, and it's been a theme even going back to last year, but the tight ends, Lions defense has struggled to cover the opposing tight end. They allowed 3 touchdowns last week, 7 catches, 84 yards today, along with the Delanie Walker touchdown.
Number 51 in there for Detroit. He's a defensive end. That's Brandon Copeland. They've got him trying to play linebacker.
And there's a penalty. It's going to go against Darius Slay.
The Titans really struggled to get this play called. They were not lined up well. DeMarco Murray had to go to the other side. Marcus Mariota needed the snap.
Defense number 23. By rule, the ball is placed at the spot of the foul. Automatic. Touchdown.
That Titans really caught a break. Watches these guys come off. And that's an early, that ball was almost uncatchable to Andre Johnson as well. And he couldn't get the snap. Both receivers to the near side ran into each other and kind of stood there. There was nothing going on in that play for the Titans, and it comes out as a 1st down.
138 yards and penalties for Detroit. 1st and 10 from the 20. Mariota incomplete. Looking for Tajay Sharp. It's 2nd and 10. Steve Berlon, you mentioned Brandon Copeland into the game at linebacker.
Yeah.
He's a defensive end, but he does have some history of playing linebacker in the past. He's a converted defensive end, and out of necessity, he's having to play linebacker right now.
And that must be their emergency contingency plan. But you can see out there on the field while they're playing, Tahir Whitehead, Thurston Armbrister, they're constantly trying to get him in the right position right now. He's at the top of the screen now in a pass rushing position.
Matthews in motion on 2nd and 10. Quick pass and a short gain by Rashard Matthews. Darius Slay right on top of Matthews, and it's 3rd down.
Yeah, it's interesting to me with 9:29 to go and you're down 1 possession. All of a sudden, Tennessee's throwing the football a
I
lot.
don't like what they're doing right now, to be honest, agreeing with you 100%. Because it seemed like they had some rhythm going on the last drive. They should continue doing what it was that worked last drive. Right now, they seem a little uncertain what they want to do.
Well, when you've got an extra defensive lineman on there, they got 5 down linemen on the field, so I can see why you don't want to run against that.
Mariota incomplete. Looking for Tajay Sharp. No flags down, and it's 4th for the Titans.
Both of these last 2 plays were nickel situations as well, though. So they were in pass rush mentality. What's being illustrated here right now, Tajay Sharp should have maybe made that catch. But the lack of wide receivers for the Tennessee Titans has been a theme. They really don't have a whole lot. With Kendall Wright being out with the hamstring injury, they do not have a lot of depth at the wide receiver position.
Brett Kern punts it away to Andre Roberts. Good punt, driving Roberts back to the 22-yard line. Roberts out of bounds, close to the 35-yard line. 15-10, Lions in front, 8:40 to go in the 4th. 8:40 to go in the 4th quarter, and the Lions back on offense, 1st and 10 from the 36-yard line. They lead at 15-10. Stafford going to the air on 1st down, and Golden Tate, does he have it? Or does McCourty have it? They give it to Golden Tate.
The shared possession goes to the offense, but they both had that ball.
And now Bolden and Stafford pushing and shoving. Bryce McCain, who's been flagged 3 times today with an extra shove. No flags on the play. What a catch by Golden Tate.
Yeah, it's who gets the leverage and who can kind of wiggle it away from their opponent. You see here McCourty. You can see there they got 4 hands on it. They just, it's a battle.
8-yard gain. 2nd and 2. Washington tripped up in the backfield. Damian Stafford having a nice day for the Titans. It'll be 3rd down. Well, in just 2 days, NCIS's Michael Weatherly returns to CBS in the new legal drama, Bull. It premieres Tuesday after NCIS, only CBS. Can the Titans defense come up with a stand here? Detroit with a 3rd down and 4.
Man-to-man across the board. Bump coverage.
Stafford looking for Golden Tate. He's got a stick, but it's incomplete. Stafford threw it closer to the sideline. He threw it closer to the middle of the field. That would have been a touchdown.
Yeah. Well, I think Golden Tate's got to turn his shoulders and try and get 2 hands up. It took him a little too long to pick that ball up coming out of the air. He couldn't get his shoulders around and get 2 hands up for it.
I agree with you, Steve, but Matt Stafford knows too, and as a quarterback, that ball's got to be kept away from that sideline. He was 2 steps behind the defender. If he keeps that ball in, maybe puts a little bit more air on it, I think Golden Tate comes down with that ball.
2nd 3 and out today by the Lions. Mariani from the 10. And Mariani lost the football, but it went out of bounds. It'll stay with Tennessee. 7:04 to play. Titans offense returning to the field. They trail by 5.
The NFL on CBS is sponsored by Subway Restaurants and by AT&T, mobilizing your world.
Titans start this drive at the 17-yard line with 7:04 to go, and they started on the ground with DeMarco Murray running right. Murray following his blocks and shoved out of bounds at the 27-yard line.
Wow, that's a run.
That's what I think Tennessee needs to do right now. We've documented these linebackers. Even though Copeland, number 51, is a defensive lineman, he's not used to playing in space at this level as an outside linebacker.
Yeah, he's kind of taking the guy on as a defensive lineman would instead of a linebacker, where he's got to extend his hands and keep leverage and be able to move both ways off that block. He just kind of took it on and moved himself out of the way.
88 yards rushing for DeMarco Murray. They call his number again, and Murray this time is spun down. Armbrister makes the tackle.
Yeah, it's all hands on deck for the Lions defense with the injuries that they've sustained. We'll give you a quick look at all the injuries that have happened to them today, but now got a Armbrister comes out and they bring in a nickel back as the Titans go 3 wide. And you look at that.
It's not a good stat.
That's not a good stat.
Trying to change that. DeMarco Murray has 89 yards rushing. Mariota to Murray. And he gets to the 32-yard line. We spoke with DeMarco Murray last night and said, in the offseason, did you go back and look at any of the film from last year in Philly? And he said, no, I will never look at the video from last year. I'm putting that one away and moving on.
Well, they talked so much about the year he had in 2014 with Dallas. He had 392 touches that year. And that's why a lot of people thought, you know what, he's not going to be able to duplicate that. That's a workload. But today, he's looked fresh and ready to go. And the year off, so to speak, in Philadelphia has helped him.
Big play here, 3rd down and 5. Mariota, sharp, makes the catch for a 1st down.
Yeah, that's a clutch play by a rookie. Yeah, they said, and we spoke about it earlier, Sharp is a guy that has come in as a rookie in training camp and in OTAs, and it's just been wise beyond his years. He's emotionally ready to play in the NFL, and the coaches think he's intellectually ready. He's just a real veteran type of personality that has really taken to the pro game.
Terry Robisky said it best. He's not a rookie trying to fit in. He's a rookie trying to win. And he comes up with a clutch catch on 3rd down right there. 4:40 to go. Each team with 3 timeouts remaining. Play action to Henry. Mariota to Philip Supernaw, who's tackled at the 46-yard line. That's just the 7th catch of Supernaw's career.
But, you know, right there, little thing, but if that ball, if Mariota puts that ball on him and he doesn't have to go down and catch that ball, he's running to the sideline with people chasing him. He picks up a good 6-7 more yards minimum. You never know, he might break a tackle. Those are the little things that you just got to find a way to improve the execution.
It's Henry running left, and a nice tackle by Armbrister sets up 3rd down.
Yeah, Henry did a nice job making something out of nothing. It looked like it was going to be a yard loss, but he kind of leaned forward, put a stiff arm out, and it turns into a 3rd and 1, which gives you a chance. But the Titans, I think with 3:34 to go, I think you got to think about it's 4 down territory unless you take a big loss.
Tennessee 4 for 9 on 3rd downs. It's 3rd and 1. 4 on the play clock. Mariota to DeMarco Murray for the 1st down. Wow. How about that on 3rd and 1 with 2 bruising running backs? They go empty and they complete it for a 1st.
And he threw it to a running back on a safety, which is not the matchup that quarterbacks or coaches want. You see DeMarco Murray running to the flat right there. The safety runs out to cover him, but Mariota recognized DeMarco Murray had him outflanked at the snap. Really big time execution on the biggest third down of the game.
Titans 2 for 2 on third downs on this drive. A fresh set, 1st and 10 from the 47. Mariota lofts one for Murray, has a seam in the middle of the field, and a 1st down for DeMarco Murray, a gain of 22.
And now they're starting to put pressure on a defense that has been spread very thin. Is there a flag on the field on the far side that the officials are talking about? I do not see a flag.
Well, you got the isolation of the running back on the linebacker right there. Those linebackers for Detroit have been working their you-know-what's off all day long.
Illegal use of the hands to the face, number 51, defense. That penalty's declined the result of the play as a 1st down.
That's on Brandon Copeland, who, as we mentioned, a defensive end playing linebacker because of the injuries to both Van Noy and Levy and Williams, 3 injured linebackers for the Lions.
And there you see at the top of your screen, you saw the right hand under the chin. But Armbrister, who's a backup, is the one that got beat on that last play.
Mariota completes it over the middle. He's now 6 for 6 on this drive. Rashard Matthews makes the grab.
Well, the Titans had a couple of uncovered guys on that play, too. Harry Douglas, nobody lined up over him, and nobody came to cover him. If Mariota would have seen that on the snap, it could have been a touchdown.
Yeah, Terrell Austin, defensive coordinator of the Lions, has just got to be pulling his hair out. The wheels are coming off because of all the substitutions and roster problems they've got. I mean, these guys are looking around. They don't know exactly where they're supposed to line up, and they certainly are having problems picking a guy to cover.
It's Henry trying to get around the edge on the left side, and he's shoved out of bounds by Tavon Wilson. This is setting up a lot like last week for the Lions when Jim Caldwell did not call his timeouts on defense against the Colts, saved them for offense, and Stafford went down the field and won the game with a field goal.
Well, of course, Caldwell is hoping not to have to relive that comeback last week, hoping his defense can stand up and make a play here. But yes, having the 3 timeouts, those are all things that will work in his favor if they do need to score.
2nd down and 4. They need to get to the 5-yard line for a 1st down. Mariota, quick pass, caught at the 5. It's Andre Johnson. Did he get in?
Yeah, there's a flag. 2 flags. There's a pick play at the top.
Johnson down at the 1-yard line.
The Titans had an illegal pick at the top, or is this going to go against the Lions?
I think it
again?
is. I thought they were going to call a pick play as well.
I saw the body language of the receivers. They were looking around like, you didn't see that on us, did you? And
Pass interference.
Oh, they are.
Number 18. 10-yard penalty. Remains 2nd down.
yeah, they caught Rashard Matthews at the top of your screen. Right, if you watch, you see he just throws his shoulder. And he throws his shoulder right into Darius Slay, and you can't do that. You can't block for a receiver to get him open.
And Matthews is a 5th-year player out of Nevada. He knows how to, by now, every receiver in the NFL knows how you're supposed to execute that route. That was the easiest call of the day for the officials.
That's a bonehead mistake.
That's the kind of mistake that loses ball games.
So 2nd down and 14. Mariota, shovel pass, and Murray gets back to the 12-yard line. It will be 3rd down. That play takes us to the 2-minute warning. What a wild game in Detroit. A 5-point game with 2 minutes left. Raucous crowd at Ford Field, setting up for a big 3rd down and 7. Tennessee with the ball at the 12-yard line. They trail by 5. Mariota, and that pass well short of the 1st down to Tajae Sharpe. And now what do? You do have 3 timeouts. You can kick the field goal, but Mike Mularkey keeping the offense on the field.
Well, you kick the field goal, and you're kind of Yeah, you can't. It doesn't tie you. It doesn't give you enough. You've got to get the touchdown. You get a first down here as well. You don't have to score.
If you play for the field goal, you're playing that your defense is going to stop them.
Yeah.
You're going to get the ball back, kick another field goal.
There's just not enough time to do that. This is the right play. It's 4-down territory.
They need to get to the 5-yard line for a first down. Mariota with time, end zone, and it is caught! Andre Johnson! What a play! On 4th down, Andre Johnson with the 69th touchdown of his career, and now the Titans will go for 2.
How does he catch this ball?
I have no idea how that ball got in there.
He is well defended. There are guys all around him, and he pulls it in. Wow.
That's why he's going to be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. You make big plays when you get the chance at big times in games.
When you get down here, it's an old adage, but it's true. You don't think about play calls, you think about players. You got a Hall of Famer on your roster, give him a chance, and Andre Johnson comes through.
Big play here, though. That would make the field goal, would tie it. If the Titans don't get the 2, then a field goal would win it for Detroit. Mariota rolling right. Runs into his own man. And the 2-point conversion is no good. He tripped over DeMarco Murray. So now with 3 timeouts and 1:13 to go, all the Lions need is a field goal to win the game.
DeMarco Murray just got blown into the backfield right there. That was
Whitehead. Yeah, to hear Whitehead just push DeMarco Murray right into it.
Yeah, DeMarco Murray didn't act like he knew that Mariota was rolling to his right.
Well, this looks a lot like last week when in Indianapolis, the Lions, with 3 timeouts and 37 seconds to go on the clock, went 5 plays, 50 yards in 33 seconds. It led to the game-winning field goal by Matt Prater.
You know, I'll tell you, on a day like today, if I'm Mike Mularkey, I might think about putting this ball high in the air, inside the 5-yard line, outside the numbers if you can, and see if you can gain some field position by pinning the Lions down inside their 10 or 15-yard line. A lot's been said about the debate that would happen, and guys say if the situation's right, that's what you do. If Mike Mularkey wants to take the chance and get some extra field position, this might be a point where you ask your coverage unit to give you some help inside the 20-yard line.
All of that because of the new rule with the touchback ball coming out to the 25-yard line.
Succop kicks this one into the end zone. So the Lions with 3 timeouts will start at the 25-yard line. A reminder coming up next, most of you will see the Colts and the Broncos, or the Falcons make a run at the Raiders, and the Jaguars tangle with the Chargers. Check their local listings. Well, last week, down 1:37 seconds to go, we just showed you. And what the Lions said after the game is they practice this scenario all the time. Matthew Stafford directing traffic, 3 timeouts. They just got to get into Matt Prater field goal range for the win. Stafford throwing on first, and it's dropped. Intended for Anquan Bolden. It'll be 2nd down and 10. Matthew Stafford in familiar territory. Game-winning drive last week, and since 2011, no quarterback has more game-winning drives in the 4th quarter or overtime than Matthew Stafford.
That's a nice stat to have on your mind, on your resume. Your team believes in you. You've been here a bunch of times.
7 drop passes, not a nice stat for the Lions. That's the total today. And on 2nd down, Stafford is sacked. Orakpo with his 2nd of the day.
You talk about both these quarterbacks. And there's a timeout taken by Detroit right now after that sack. And you talk about both these quarterbacks. How about the young guy, Marcus Mariota, in the 4th quarter, giving his team the first lead of the game that they've had in the game, and that was that might have been a fumble recovery as Casey gets up.
Well, they review all these in the final 2 minutes, so
this play might get reviewed. That ball was out. Now, you may say that
In the grass.
Stafford was in the grass, and I would tend to think that's the case. He was going backwards and in the grass with a defender. There, he's going down, and the ball is out. Now, there's no question the ball's out before he gets on the ground.
Mike Mularkey cannot challenge, as Steve Beuerlein said, inside 2 minutes. All reviews initiated from the replay booth, and they have not stopped the game. So it's 3rd down and 19 with 1:04 to go. Stafford fires and makes the catch. He's got the first down. Tackle made by Denoris Searcy. That was thrown behind Ebron, and he made a heck of a play.
That was a phenomenal catch, low and behind him with one hand.
Never broke stride. Amazing catch.
Lions don't call timeout. 40 seconds to go. They have 2 remaining from the 45-yard line. Stafford behind Golden Tate and incomplete. Let's go back to that catch by Ebron.
Are you
Holy
kidding
cow.
me?
Running full speed across the field. Puts his left hand behind him and brings that in. Does not break stride. That's a heck of a play.
Lions need about another 20 yards from Matt Prater. He does have a 64-yard field goal, the longest in NFL history. That was in Denver. Stafford with time. Checks down to Riddick. Good tackle made right there by Damian Stafford, who's had a big day, and now a timeout called for by the Lions with 28 seconds to go.
That's one of those that Matthew Stafford will look back and he'll say, I wish I didn't complete that ball. You pick up 3 yards and you got to burn a timeout.
Right.
That's not worth the exchange right there.
But it's also one of those throws that most of the day the running back's made a guy miss and gained some yardage, so he's trying to let his guys play their game, but that was the first time we've seen in a while that a Tennessee defender right to the ball and made the tackle on the ground.
And his accuracy has been a little bit off on this drive, too. That ball did not hit Riddick in stride.
It's like the Ebron pass was blowing behind him.
Prater's been clutch in his career. Will he get a chance? It's 3rd down and 9. Stafford intercepted. Parrish Cox, and he wisely goes to the ground. Matthew Stafford had gone 212 passes without an interception. And he throws one here to Parrish Cox, who had a miserable game for the Titans. But in the big moment, Cox comes up with the pick.
Well, Dick LeBeau, the scheme, something threw Matthew Stafford off there. He had no idea that there were defenders sitting there.
Yeah, Cox sloughed off on his coverage of Bolden
on the outside.
Yeah, and he slipped out underneath the deeper route and got into Stafford's throwing lane.
It looked as though Stafford had backed off a little bit, was thrown off his back foot.
We spoke with Mike Mularkey last night. The Titans have won just 5 games in the last 2 years, and we said, how do you change the culture? As you see, Mariota's not kneeling here. It's Matt Castle. And Mularkey said, we just got to finish. We haven't been able to finish games. If we just finish one game, I really think it'll get going. Well, they finish here. Parrish Cox seals it with the interception, and the Titans win 16-15. For Steve Beuerlein and Steve Tasker, I'm Andrew Catalon saying so long from Detroit. Now it's time for the NFL Today update. Here's James Brown in New York.